I mean, damn, if my truck didn't tell me when to change the oil, I'd probably forget to change it right now.
It's true, though. And we drive them hard. We don't drive them easy.
Yeah, exactly. We're always on the go, go, go.
Yeah.
I don't think my dirt bike has ever had an oil change before. It was like, what? No,
it's fine.
It's fine. It's a
It
Honda.
still runs.
It runs
Exactly.
forever.
That's true. The Hondas are good. All my generators back there have never been changed. It's fine. It's fine.
We're so bad.
You're right.
I know.
I joke around that like on my Harley that if it stops dripping oil, then I have a problem. But
they're supposed to leak, right?
yeah.
Well, that's
But
like
when it stops leaking, then I'll add more.
And then you'll add more. It's fine.
Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believe me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces.
We are back. Welcome back to another episode of the Lambo and Leroy show. We've been gone for a little bit, man. It's been hectic.
Yeah, I like you always say, like, we are back. We haven't really gone anywhere. We're still here.
Still around.
We're still doing this.
Yes.
But we're just trying to make sure we get the best quality guest we possibly can.
Yes, I love it. Speaking about guests, Sean, who do we have today?
We have someone who I feel like I can relate a lot with, who was kind of born into the industry, but learned really at a young age how much we enjoy aftermarket, we enjoy customizations, we enjoy personalizing our own vehicles. And Sara, at a young age, was introduced to the industry. And I mean, to try to explain, in an hour, it's going to be tough, of where she's kind of started, where she's at now, from her mega involvement in the industry through SEMA, through promoting, through customizing vehicles, to building vehicles for a lot of the OEMs, to I wouldn't even know where to begin. But the best part is she is a hardcore enthusiast like all of us. And if it wasn't for the industry and being able to have fun, she probably wouldn't have any reason to work hard.
Yeah.
That's true, right?
So welcome, Sara. Thank you for coming on. We know you have a lot going on, but we appreciate you being here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about where you're at today and what you're doing, and then we're going to hit the rewind button and go back to the beginning.
Okay. So right now I currently, so I'm owner and president of LGE-CTS Motorsports. I've owned the company now. Well, I've been in the business now since I was 16. So
Jeez.
just a few years.
Just a couple years.
And technically you started that part of it when you were 16, right?
Yeah, I started their website at 16, and like you said, when we do rewind, we can go back to like how I ended up starting the company and getting into it. But yeah, throughout the years, like mostly right now, we're building a ton of vehicles. It's, to be honest, to see the involvement of like where I started and like what I do now. It's so different, and it's funny because like I'm always looking at like business things that they say, like, what's your goal? What do you want to do? And for like, I think as like business owners or entrepreneurs, or like when you're doing stuff, it's like, for me, it's not that it's like constantly changing. It's just evolving, right? Like I still have the same end goal at the end. Like I'm still selling products to customers and people, the stuff that I love to do. And I don't know, I push that so hard because I love off-roading so much. I mean, I grew up going to Glamis and Havasu, and it was pretty much like everyone would be like, during high school, like we didn't really see you around all the time. And I was like, well, I was in the desert
Doing
other stuff.
Yeah, of course.
And, and it's like, I kind of just thought everyone was going to Glamis and to the river.
Wasn't that normal, right?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
That's what I know.
Yeah. And it's like, I would go to a couple like, parties here and there, but for the most part, it was like when I went to school on Friday, my dirt bike was loaded in my truck, and I was leaving straight from there to go somewhere.
Absolutely. And that was the lifestyle. That's how we all grew up, which is so cool.
Yeah, and it's like, and like I built my first car. Well, my first car was a 70 El Camino, which I restored.
Nice.
Yeah, my parents were like, if you want a car, you have to build it. period.
That's
and
cool.
I was totally like, what? I thought I was getting a BMW. Like,
Like, what
Where's
is
my
this
BMW?
trunk car thing
Yeah.
you guys are
it's
giving
weird.
to? Yeah.
I said I wanted this. No. No, it was cool though, because I got to, like, my dad, I mean, it was, when it pulled up, I was like, man. But I saw my sister go through that process with her car. And so I was kind of excited about building mine as well. But
Yeah.
so yeah, I don't know. I've always enjoyed it. And I've always seen like my other friends that have come that didn't have that same lifestyle or didn't have that in their family, which I thought everyone had a 6-car garage, but like
Coming from that car culture.
Yeah. And my dad didn't have any boys, you know, he only had us 2 girls.
Yep.
So it was like, I would come in and he would, you know, my guy friends would come over and it's like half the time they were in the garage with my dad or building something or working on the sand rail. And it was like, to me, that was just what we did. And seeing other people get excited about that and really starting to get into it. And I would go to car shows with my friends on weekends. And I was like, dude, we're sitting at the same car show with the same people in a different parking lot every weekend. Like,
Yeah.
I could be selling stuff or doing something instead of just
So
sitting
smart.
next to my car.
Yeah.
So then I started selling like all the mini truck stuff, like billet grills and
So rad.
air ride suspension and things like that. Cause that's what all those
Stole and everything back in the
yeah,
day.
like all the
Phantom
trends and the
grills,
Phantom
the
grills.
trends,
Yeah.
the
and-
Street scene.
Yep.
It's so
exactly.
insane. That
All
was
of
it
those
right
brands.
there. Yeah.
And then I bought a trailer and I started just working swap meets and mini truck shows and
Wow.
things like that. And then, and I was selling everything on our website because my dad was already painting SEMA vehicles and a lot of the companies would trade him product instead of paying
Yeah.
for it.
That's the damn industry, I'm telling you.
Great business model, right?
Right.
But we loved it.
Right.
Yeah, we'll
we
take
still
it.
did it. Like,
Yeah,
okay.
Still do it.
Yeah.
Still today.
So, you know, but so when I saw the parts just sitting there, I was like, well, I'm going to sell these or do something because
Perfect.
I'm not a person that can sit around for a long time.
Yeah. Always got to be doing something. I get that.
Well, I think
yeah.
that's also because the way we were raised, we were always doing something. There was always a show, always a vehicle, always an
Yeah.
adventure to be
It's
had,
true.
always going somewhere. And it's like we work real hard during the week to just go away on the weekends.
Yeah.
And so I think it was kind of like engraved into us that like we need to stay busy. Like there's
Yeah.
like go have fun, enjoy life, work hard and enjoy, play harder, I guess.
Yeah. And I think I was like telling you the other day, like we moved out of the building that we were in. So we used to be in a 28,000 square foot building.
It was massive.
Was that
It was such a big building.
What city was that? Glendora? I
It was
think?
in
Or-
San
San
Dimas.
Dimas.
San Dimas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, because you shot the commercial.
Shot the commercial, and
from
you guys did my truck there too.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, it's been 5 years probably now.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago. But yeah, the commercial for you guys, that was awesome.
Yeah.
And how long were you guys in that location?
So in that location, we were there since '92.
Wow.
So explain to people, I guess, what it was. I mean, you had that big center building. You guys did a lot of insurance work in there, right?
Yeah, so we were an auto body shop, and then we also had the aftermarket side as well.
Yeah.
And on the body shop side, we actually specialized in vehicles that had aftermarket stuff because a lot of times you'll go to, like a side nurse collision, and if it has aftermarket suspension or any bumpers or anything like that, they're pretty much like,
What do we do?
we don't even want to try because it just sits on their rack because they don't even know.
What
Or
to
a lot
do.
of times they'll just send it to us. So I actually, we would specialize in aftermarket stuff, or like if, your hot rod gets damaged, you don't want to just take it to any body shop.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
So that's pretty much what we did on that. Plus we did a ton of fiberglass work.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And that's what we were mostly known for was that
didn't
kind
know
of
that.
stuff. So, yeah, so it kind of just evolved there. And then we started manufacturing bumpers and steps because my sister would always like to design and build like her one-off vehicles that we were doing for OEs. And that's what she specializes on, the design side.
Yeah.
And then we would go to, build these packages for the OEs. And then we get all these people asking us, okay, we want that vehicle. And it's like, well, then you need to ship it to California. And they're
That's
like,
all custom one-off stuff.
yeah. And they're like, oh, well, I don't want to ship it to California. So then we got into manufacturing,
Oh
which is
my
like a whole nother
gosh.
like
yeah.
world, right? And I'm like, I don't even know what half of this stuff is. Like, how do I even figure out margins? Like,
Right? How are you making money on this?
yeah, because I'm so used to doing it the back way where I'm like, oh, you were to give me a jobber price and I know what my points back
Of
are.
course.
You know, but like trying to figure it out the other way and making
Producing
sure,
it,
yeah, it was like a whole nother like, shoot, I don't even know where to go with this. And then, you know, packaging and boxing and
Well, that's that growing point, though. I mean, you got to do it, right? You just got to figure it out as you go and make it happen. Like you did all the way, your steps all the way through.
yeah. And then I started having, putting everything like the whole entire build as a package instead of just the parts that we did.
Yeah.
And then started pushing it out towards like dealers and stuff
That's
like
awesome.
that.
So that's like your suspension, your wheels, tires, bumpers, everything.
Yep.
Well, and that was kind of through an era where most people weren't putting together a package. They would let the customer kind of decide, come through, a la carte, pick what they want. When most of the time the customers don't know what they want someone to just tell them,
It looks good.
This is what you need.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, this is my recipe for, you know, what I feel is going to be great.
Yeah.
And you start selling that package and duplicate it and grow with it.
Yep.
That's awesome.
And it's, you know, it's so much easier to show because people are visual, right? It's like, or, you know, with like, you know, with your exhaust, people have to hear it.
Yeah.
It's like the number one thing, like, oh, what does it sound like?
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
And you're like, well, it kind of sounds like, no.
For me,
It's a little deeper, it's a little louder.
I'll never have a booth inside a show other than SEMA, right?
Right.
Otherwise, I got to be outside. People want to hear it.
Hear
Doesn't
it.
do me
Yeah.
any
Start it
good
up.
if they can't hear it.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's just a shiny tip or a black tip.
Yep.
Yep, that's all you see on it. That's true, though.
Like, please take my word for it. Sounds great.
Yeah.
I promise.
Awesome.
Watch this video on his iPhone.
So, I mean, yeah. So when we started manufacturing, like I said, it was a whole new world. And then it was kind of good for us too, because when we started selling like the packages and doing bigger builds, I got to be a little bit pickier about doing some other work that we were doing that, you know, not everything in business is fun. You get the other stuff too that that you do, and
take
you're
the
like,
good with the bad.
I need cash flow, so like you have to take in the other stuff to go with it because you know that hopefully in the long run it's going to turn into something better, like dealer work for us. It's I mean, selling packages to a dealership, awesome. Doing dealer work and installs, it's like they want discounts on everything.
Of course.
Then they want you to warranty it. Then they want you to pick it up and drop it off and then wait on a check, you know?
And
it's
then they
like,
mark it up 10 times.
yeah. And then you're like, dude, I don't think you understand. We're not like the clothing industry here where we have like these mass margins. Like,
No.
you know, it's like, and kind of doing those sales, it's like, they worked out well for us because we made all of the customers come back to us for retorques, you know, so they had to sit in our lobby in our showroom for an hour while we fix everything or, you know,
That's good,
retorque
yeah.
everything on their vehicle. And at that point, I would say then it's our team's
can
fault if we
sell.
don't sell something else on top of that.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
it.
like
Right?
it's up to my sales guys to walk in there and figure it out. And like, we're huge on, you know, everything for us is soft sales because I always tell like all of our salespeople, find out what the customer does. Like, first of all, find out what they use their vehicle for, what they do. And then you have to ask the question, what do you actually want to do with your vehicle? Because what some
Fair.
people actually buy their vehicle for and use it for is not actually what they intend. They are like,
True.
I want to go out and do all of this
I
stuff.
want to go race the Baja 1000. You're like, oh, okay.
I bought a ZR2 because it did it.
Yeah.
Exactly right. It didn't actually do
I
it,
saw
though.
this Ranger and it did, and it
Yeah?
was completely stock. I'm like, yeah, it was also by professional drivers.
Yeah.
And
a little different.
And
A
it
little
won't do
different.
that all the time.
But, yeah. But no, it's like people always, especially like, I'm going to say more like on the Jeep and Bronco side, we get a lot of people that like, I want to start going out off-roading or I want to
Yeah.
start going out and doing this stuff, but they don't actually know what
What that means
or how to go do it or any of that kind of
Yep.
stuff. So a lot of times when they come in, I go, you know, find out what they actually want to do with their vehicle at the end so that when you're selling them the product, you can tell them this is actually going to set you up to start getting you to the point of where you want to use your vehicle
You
for.
become an educator.
You educate. Exactly. And then at that point, it's them deciding what they want to do. And then they're not all like, well, you told me to buy this. And it's like, no,
Yeah, like you said, you want to take outdoor showers. That's why I gave you this outdoor shower.
Right? Yeah.
Now they want to go overland. They want to go do this. They want to go explore. I mean,
Well, because we all see those images of like the camp set up in the middle of nowhere with maybe the hidden little lake in the background, and you're like, I just want to be there so
I want to
bad.
do that.
Right?
But there is such a massive adventure to get to that point. Like
Right.
it's so much more than
Make sure
just
you're equipped.
getting there, making sure the tent pops up and sitting there. Like you've got to. There's a whole off-road adventure to usually get to some of those spots, and that's why that photo is so meaningful. Is like it's not so much the moment there; it was the adventure getting to that moment, going
Right.
it's so true.
peacefulness.
It's so damn true.
And people, and it's funny, and it's funny too, because it's like you see people buying like really inexpensive products after they spend like $80,000 or $100,000 on a vehicle. And then they're like, oh, I want to get this $1,000 lift kit. And you're like, why? Like,
It's not gonna work. I mean, can't
and,
promise it's gonna hold up.
and I'm like, okay, but you're going to go out, not spend the money, and go out in the middle of nowhere where you're isolated and no one's around. And if something breaks that you don't know how to fix or you can't fix,
Yep.
like, how much money are you going to spend to get your vehicle recovered out there?
Exactly.
$5,000? Now you could have bought that kit that you
The
needed.
really good kit that'll get you out there and get you safe. Keep you safe.
Well,
Keep you
and
safe.
you learn that mistake once. I think we've all done that. We've all been broke down in the middle of somewhere going,
Yeah.
what do I do? Like
You're stuck somewhere. Like, damn, I
yeah,
shot
my
the winch.
crescent wrench, duct tape, and zip tie is not going to fix this broken ball joint.
Right?
Because there's a
been there.
difference too between like a lift kit and then a suspension kit.
Right.
Right. And there's a massive difference.
Yep.
And just because you can put bigger tires on it doesn't mean you can go more places.
Right.
It just means
That's
you're going to
so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in high school it didn't matter.
No, it didn't.
The taller you were, the better it was.
Yeah, you didn't know the difference.
Or the lower you were, the better it was. Either way.
Right.
Either one of those. So,
go
yeah,
ahead.
well, I guess what was next on that? So what year did you open that facility?
1996.
96. Okay. And then did you start doing insurance work right away?
So my parents started the auto body shop in 1982, which
Okay.
was LNG Enterprises.
Ah, that makes sense. Okay.
And then in 1996, I started Custom Truck Shop.
Yeah.
And the reason I called it Custom Truck Shop at that point, there wasn't like search engines and things like that. So I needed something that was as easy as possible
Yeah.
to put in as a website,
smart.
right?
Yeah.
So customtruckshop.com is what I started. It was the website I started.
perfect.
Yeah. And then when I graduated in 98, then I asked my parents for a small bay to do installs. And I was basically just running out of their front lobby.
Awesome.
And then in 2001, which is the center building that,
Okay.
because we were just in the front building.
Yeah.
The renters that were in there were moving out.
Okay.
And I handed my parents a business plan and I said, can I take the center building?
That's so smart.
And they were like, you think you're ready to take on that size? And I was like, yeah, I think
How
I
old were you
can
at this
do it.
point?
I was 21 at that
Wow.
point when I opened that shop.
That's a massive
I mean,
deal.
when most people are just trying to figure out like how they're going to go out to the bars, they just turn
Exactly.
21. She's like, how am I going
You
to
have
open
a
up
full
this
business
business?
plan.
24,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Business plan. Like, let's
That's
do this.
massive.
It was a great timing for you guys to start then. And there was so much energy wrapped around that time for the trucks. It was so much fun. And there was only a few people in the game that were just kind of developing at that point. Like, how did it work out? You went to your parents, had a business plan, and did they say no at first and you had to convince them, or they're like, you know what, we believe in you, let's do this?
I think because they knew that I already had a base going. It wasn't like I just went in there with nothing. I mean, I was already hustling on the weekends and selling products. So I already had a really good following of customers. And at that point, I was doing all the installs, and my cousin was working with me. So she would do sales or help me with installs as well.
Wow.
And then finally, I was like, okay, I need to hire an employee. And then all of a sudden, I was like, no, I need 2 employees. I'm like, damn.
You're like, wait, how do I manage employees?
Right?
I got to manage them. I got to pay them. I got to do so much work.
It starts becoming real then.
Right? Yeah. I always teased that well, I didn't. So I took college classes, but I didn't actually like go to school and like graduate. I took the classes I thought were important to me.
Yeah, that's good.
Right? Like I was like,
that's the best way to do it.
Yeah. So I was doing like accounting and business classes at night. And then I took a ton of marketing classes.
So smart.
So I was like, this is the stuff I need. And then when I got to the point where it was like, you had to do like your, English and all that kind of stuff, I was like, and I'm out. So,
I'm good. I'm not into that. Just give me my main class I need.
And everyone kept going, oh, you need to get a degree. And I was like, why? I'm going to own my own company. I'm not going to use that degree for anything
Exactly.
to go get a job.
Right.
Like to
Why
make
waste
more
the
money.
Yep.
Like I'm already doing it and I don't plan on ever leaving it.
Yeah.
And you were taking classes that kind of benefit you in what you were currently doing at that point. I mean, I think so many people, go to college not knowing what they want and they have nothing to relate it to. So they're not really to absorb, I guess the goodness from it.
Yeah.
Because they don't really understand the importance of what they're being taught. They just know this class should help me somewhere down the road versus like
right.
you had a problem, you needed to learn more about it. And so you were there learning it. So you probably got more from those classes than most people would ever get going through the whole thing and getting a degree and never having real world experiences.
Yeah. And for me, like, because I was taking the classes while I was running my company, they made sense. And I was super passionate about paying attention and making sure because
you enjoyed it.
Yeah. And, I think sometimes you go through school and you don't realize like how much you need something specifically until you're in the middle of it and you're like, shit, I should have paid attention more, Like
how do you do this? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was a really good like point. And I still like to this day, I still try and take as many classes online or anything I can to like, especially with like everything evolving so quickly, especially like in social media and changing and learning how to like work with anything new. I'm constantly like,
it's so smart.
Like, it seems so much easier sometimes. Sometimes it seems so much easier to build a brand back in the day when you actually had to go to events and go to places and it was word of mouth in front of people versus now with like the internet. You would think it would almost be.
You think it would be easier.
There's more competition, though. That's the thing. There's so many more people doing it.
More complicated, more restricted. There's these algorithms and math and
right.
And
all
then
the AI programs.
That's so true. It's so damn true.
So crazy.
But it's funny too because it's like beforehand as well. It was like people would come in and talk to you, and you were the expert.
Yeah.
And now everyone thinks they're the expert just because they own that vehicle, and you're like, dude, you don't even know what you're talking about. Like, and it's, for me, it's like, even when you go on forums and it's like, I try to be very like, pull myself back and only answer, the questions that are relevant to like what I specifically have on there. And, but it's hard because you see some of the information, people are like, nope, this is what you need to do. And I was like, no, that is not
That's wrong.
That is so wrong. But like, at the same time, I'm a professional and I don't want to say something and it reflect on another company badly.
Yeah, true.
Because, my name is still out there. But at the same time, I'm like, please don't do that.
We're keyboard warriors, though.
Well, like a perfect example is like today I was looking at the new Can-Am Maverick R. There's like a group or something on Facebook, and the guy's like, hey, one person asked, when do you realistically think the four-seater is going to be coming out? And someone speaks, probably next spring. And the thing is, the way he kind of wrote it, you would almost take it as if he has an insight with Can-Am. He's speaking for the business, and that information has value to it when it's simply an opinion.
It's an opinion.
Like, that's all it is. His guess is maybe in spring, right? And so many people... read through the things. There's just opinions. It's filled with opinions, which are great. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but you have to be able to read through some of the opinions.
Yeah. So I think there's just so much more like noise now that we, as like between us and the end consumer, have to now get through. Where before it was like, we used to go to the sand show and it was like, when they first, like Dawn and them started it, it was like they came to us and they're like, we need 40 vehicles. And I was like, okay, I can do 40 vehicles. Like,
Crazy.
And it's like we lined them all up and we had like a massive booth and it was like so simple. It wasn't simple, but it was like people came in, they listened to you, they bought stuff, and it was great. And it's like now I feel like when we go to these shows and stuff, everyone is like, but my buddy said this, and when I was on this, and like like you said, and you think like, oh, I can put something as a company out there and people are going to like, oh, listen to it because you're the professional. But it's like,
well,
there's
we take
so much
the
you
time
have to go through.
So as a business or a brand or a shop, we take the time to give our opinion on what we feel is best for you.
Right.
To where everyone else is giving their opinion on what's best for them.
Right.
And that's really the difference. Like we will take the time to try and find that right product for you.
Yeah.
Right.
All the forums are filled with everyone speaking on what was best for them and their needs are. And we don't all have the same needs. That's why there's Ford, Dodge, Chevy, Toyota, Nissan, you know, all those different brands because there's a ton of different needs that everybody wants. Why there's different flavors of drinks, everything.
Yep.
Because we all have different needs. And we've always taken the time to figure out what best fits your needs.
Yep. And that's and it's actually, so like on my websites or even when like I do a lot of my things, I tell people, I go, the difference between us is everything we sell, I have physically used it before.
Yeah.
I have used it either if it's been on my own vehicles, which 90% of the time it's been on something that I personally have driven or have used or gone out camping with or done.
Yeah.
Or it's on a vehicle that is one of my customers that I have a tight relationship with that I can like keep track of how that product is doing.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, I'm really like, I don't have time to sell product that I don't believe in because because it just comes back on me and it costs me and my team more money in the long run to sell.
Oh yeah.
Something that's not a good product. It reflects on us. And I don't, like I tell people, I'm like, no, I only sell quality products that I believe in that we've actually tested and used personally.
That's awesome.
And I'm not going to sell something I don't. There's like new stuff that comes out, of course. And I tell people, this is a new product I just brought on. I see really great reviews about it. And I've heard from other friends in the industry that it's amazing, but I'm trying it out and stuff like that. And then once I start like getting familiar with it, then I'll bring it on and like.
Well, it's also probably because, you know, going back to when you started this business, there was probably some times when you selected to use some products and it really bit you in the ass, right? I mean, a customer came back or I don't know, something failed. I mean, I was always scared with suspension kits. Right? I was like, I can't imagine being a company that's installing suspension kits. Like the liability of like, and everybody is going to go beat on it like it's a long travel.
Right.
Or they're going to beat on like it's a trophy truck. Did you ever have any moments like that where, you know, a standout one where you're like, we've got to make sure we select the right products and move forward to it?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think obviously in the beginning is when we learn everything,
100%.
right?
100%.
And I think sometimes as business owners, you get stuck in the like, oh, my margins are 50% on this. I'm going to push this all day long because those are just unheard of and you want to make the most
much
money
you can, yeah.
But then I started realizing that it wasn't always the companies that had the best margins. It was the companies that I didn't have to fit and babysit. Right. Because it's like, oh, every time something broke, that vehicle comes back. We're not charging the customer labor and time for it to sit there. And every day something is sitting on my rack.
Yeah.
Every shop owner knows how much each rack makes them a day. And every time there's something that's sitting on a rack and I'm not making money, that's not the fact that like, oh, I'm not charging them money. I'm also don't have another job that's getting done because of that. Right. Like, and you have to kind of look at like all of those different aspects. It's like, that employee could be working on something else that could be making money. So in the long run, you're actually losing a ton of it, right? Yeah. So your 50% margin doesn't really mean anything.
Margin.
It doesn't mean anything anymore. So when I started to realize like, oh, look, we've installed these brands and they don't ever come back except for like once a year. Someone goes, oh, it's starting to squeak now. And it's like, well, you know, that's time for your retorque and your grease. And we're pretty strict on that part. Like,
well, because most consumers, like myself, we don't maintain our stuff. We drive it.
I don't.
I mean, I hate to say it, like we all know we should. I mean, damn, if my truck didn't tell me when to change the oil, I'd probably forget to change it right now.
It's true though. And we drive them hard. We don't drive them easy.
Yeah, exactly. We're always on the go.
Yeah.
I don't think my dirt bike has ever had it's had an oil change before. I was like, what? No,
it's fine.
It's fine. It's a
It
Honda.
still runs.
It runs
Exactly.
forever.
That's true. The Honda's good. All my generators back there have never been changed. It's fine. It's fine.
We're so bad.
Right.
I know.
I joke around that like on my Harley that if it stops dripping oil, then I have a problem. But
They're supposed to leak, right?
yeah.
Well, that's
Well,
like
when it stops leaking, then I'll add more.
And then you'll add more. It's fine.
that's how I am with my truck. If it stops blowing kind of black smoke, I mean, it's a gas engine, right?
Yeah.
It's a little tired. So when you get on it hard, sometimes it'll blow some black smoke. I'm like, if
Yeah.
it stops blowing black smoke, I should probably go add oil to it.
Yeah.
That makes sense. You can't burn anything else. So it's a good way to look
I
at it.
don't want to
man.
turn white.
Right?
Yeah, that's true. Then you're really screwed. Then you're really screwed.
So how did the custom truck shop lead you to getting connected with the OEMs?
Yeah, that's my question, actually.
So, back in '98, well, my dad was already painting vehicles for SEMA for people, right, for other like manufacturers and stuff that were displaying there, and he had he had painted a couple that had gone into the Ford booth, and in '98 we were like, or someone goes, "Oh, do you guys want to build a Ranger?" My dad's like, I don't want to build a Ranger. And I'm like, we will build a Ranger.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, so we got a Ford Ranger from them and we built that one. And then the next year they asked us if we wanted another, or they kind of reached out and asked if we wanted another vehicle. And
it's a
we
very
said,
exclusive club being part of like that
It's
dollar
so
vehicle
cool what you guys
back
do.
in the
Like,
day. Like that.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
like,
It still is. I think it's even more exclusive now. I feel like it's
Well,
even harder to get in.
it's actually, they took it away last year.
The dollar. So I know Chevy took it away a couple years ago. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
So Ford took it away last year.
Okay.
And they started opening it up for a while. Well, they opened it up completely because now you could like send in your renderings and what it is.
Yeah.
And I would actually kind of coach a lot of people through actually going out there and submitting them to OEs because we've done them so much. And it was funny because a lot of people would always go, oh, well, we got a dollar vehicle. And I'm like, and after me going through the whole process with them, like, hey, you need to look at what their marketing plan is too. You don't just do a rendering and build something.
it's work.
I go, you either have to figure out what their marketing plan is. And if you're going to build a vehicle that entails and fits into their marketing plan, or you need to build a vehicle that you're passionate about and you need to tell them why they need to be investing in you and how you're going to be making that profitable for them, right? So there's two sides. You got to work it. Either you got to do what they want or you got to make them believe in your story and what you want. You can't just submit a rendering and say, I have 1 million followers and these are the brands I'm going to do. And it's like, maybe you can with like smaller companies, but when you're going into the OEs, like you have to be so specific. And to be honest, I tell people, it sounds like a dream to have a dollar car, but the amount of money you have to have insurance for that car,
it's insane.
You have to look at, I'm like, it's insane.
It's
so look at the difference between your $5 million insurance policy.
Yep.
Where if you're not a manufacturer, you probably don't have a $5 million insurance policy. Mm-hmm. So how much money does that cost you a month? $1,000? So is that...
It's $30,000 a year.
Yeah. So you're like, it's cheaper for you to probably buy the vehicle than it is for you to get it through the dollar program.
Absolutely.
And then on top of that, just living up to what you've stated you were going to do, having it to all the events, the marketing updates constantly.
And you have to keep that vehicle to those standards for 1.5 years because if they decide they want to take the vehicle, they can, or the events that you
use it for any event.
Yeah, and they can take the vehicle. So like
and there's 0 warranty on the car too.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, or at least there was back in the day. I don't know if it's different now.
They do some like updates and like your recalls and things like that, but you don't do all.
Well, I mean, you're modifying it, so it's not going to be stock anymore when you have it.
Yeah.
So they're not going to be like, oh yeah, we can't.
Yeah.
You have a new rear end, you have a new transmission, you have a new motor. What do you want to do?
Right, and so it's like. I tell people, I go, you really have to look at if it's worth it. And I understand that you're building a relationship with the OE because you think, oh, I got the dollar vehicle. I'm building this relationship with the OE. But there's other ways you can still build relationships with those OEs because you can still reach out to the marketing departments and let them know like, oh, this is the vehicle I have and this is what I'd love to work with you. So, I mean, there's other ways. It's not
collaborate
just,
with them, not just get a dollar car.
Not just get a dollar car. Plus you have to, I mean, like you said with the dollar, we have to send in every 3 months everywhere it went, how many articles you got on it, where, like, if it was on social media stuff, like all the hits that it got. That's even harder nowadays
with social media, trying to find it all, keep track of it all. Before, it was just, we went to these events and here's these magazines. There was some editorial on and send it in. Now, I couldn't even imagine trying to keep track of it.
And it's weird too, because there's like editorial that gets done on your vehicles and you don't even know about it, you know? And it's like,
that is crazy.
Yeah. And you
even like the Japanese magazines, all like the ones overseas, all that, you know, stuff. You're like, oh, I didn't even know it was in there.
I know.
Because there's a photo pool, you know, of photos that they grab and they use. And
well, back in the day, I mean, how you found out your vehicle was in most magazines was like in the news. Remember them?
Oh, yeah.
They would send you like, hey, here's your vehicle.
That's right.
I do. I was like in a article or something the other day and I got one of those things and I was like, what is this? And it's like, what was I in? Like trying to like look it up. And I was like, damn it, why don't they send me the article? Like,
I want to see the article. Yeah.
Now, man, so we're sitting here kind of downplaying, talking shit on the whole vehicle build stuff, but there is like to have a vehicle up there in the Ford booth back in those times. I mean, there was something that really just kind of changed the energy of the show.
Still a big deal though now. It's still really cool. I mean, most people
awesome.
I mean, people that don't know what dollar car is you legit paid Ford $1 and they gave you the pink slip in the car. But you had to build the car to a specific standard that you presented to them, right?
Yep.
And so you would present to them a rendering, going and tell them your marketing plan, like you're saying, and they would give you the car and they would deliver it to you. And most of it was a secret, right? Until SEMA.
Yes.
So it was all a secret. You couldn't tell anyone. You couldn't show anyone. You couldn't put anything on social media. And it was like, boom, at SEMA, they reveal it. There's your car.
Well, and you never got the car in time.
It's always, 2 weeks before SEMA. Here you go.
Yeah. That's what's so lovely about the OEs. Yeah, it was, and I get it, like, because we're building cars that aren't even out yet, right?
True.
I mean, we had from Kia the Telluride 6 months, 8 months before they even announced to the U.S. that there was a Telluride coming out, and we had the very first vehicle.
That's crazy.
Wow.
And what's crazy, well, and I know they give it, like someone else shot it or whatever, then we get it, right? And then like they had it for media and then we got it and they're like, okay, you need to build this car for it going to SEMA and they're going to drive around at SEMA 5 cars and they're going to go up like dirt mountains and hills and through water and like all this stuff. And we're like, he's like 3 feet of water. I'm like, 3. Do you even know what?
On a Telluride, that's a crossover. It's not even like a truck or SUV.
Like, do you know what 3 feet is? Like
the car's gonna be submerged.
Yeah, it's like you can't even. The car's not even waterproof. And he's like,
God.
Is the car heavy enough to drive through 3 feet of rushing water?
And I think like they don't understand that like when you drive through something that's like 6 inches, the water splashes.
Oh yeah,
up,
that's all you need.
Then you know, and we were like,
3 feet.
To make it look cool.
And we're like, you know, you could just let's do it in our parking lot first before we try to like test and do something, right?
That's hilarious.
So I don't know if you guys ever heard that SEMA when they put the water there, it didn't hold, so it flooded Toyo's booth, the tread pad.
No. I do remember. Yes,
That sucks.
I did remember that.
I'm sure they were so sad because Toyo does such an amazing job with their booth and tread fast too.
Right.
All carpet, the sickest cars.
Yeah.
Like, that sucks.
But they got it all cleaned up and it was all ready to go Tuesday morning. But
what a mess.
The funny thing is that they come to us and they tell us like, okay, these cars has to do all of this. For us, we're like, first of all, this is the only vehicle in the U.S. And then all of a sudden we're going to get 4 more that show up. And now we're going to only have the only 5 vehicles in the U.S.
And you're going to build all of them?
And we have to build all of them. On top of that,
they have to perform.
There's no parts, like there's no OE parts. If something breaks
it's
on
done.
it, they're done because I can't just call the dealer and be like,
hey, I
need this,
transmission.
like, because I technically can't even take, like, you know, so it's like, and Kia goes, well, we have some parts.
So you just gotta let us know what breaks.
And I was like, well, we might
He's
need
like, so
to.
let me know what you think's going to break. I'm like, I have no idea.
And they're like, okay, well, where do you guys need to start? And I'm like, so we're going to, I don't know. I was like telling him like, well, we're going to do this. We're going to take one out to the desert and we're going to see what breaks first.
That's smart though.
And they're like, wait, what? And I'm like, well, we have to take it out there and see what the weakest point is on the vehicle. And that's what we're going to start with. So we, I loaded it in the trailer and my sister and I went out to El Mirage, and it was really funny because like these guys from Kia, they all show up in like suits and ties out in the middle of the
dry lake
desert.
bed.
Awesome.
Yeah. And,
They want to watch you guys.
and I hooked the Super Duty and I was like telling and they're like, oh, can we come with? And I'm like, you guys want to go for rides in the car too? And they're like, yeah. So we had them like all in the Super Duty and in the Telluride, and we were just like hauling us. We were literally on the lake bed. And my sister was doing like over 100 in the car, and I'm in the Super Duty trying to like pass her, and they're like sitting there,
They're
like,
probably freaking
they're
out.
like, are we going to be going this fast? And I was like, my sister's like, oh. No, probably not. I just wanted to see how fast it would go in the lake. But we were like hitting jumps and jumping in and like going through like whip sections. We ripped the rear bumper off.
Oh my god!
So we were like, okay,
there's
we'll
the
put
weak point one.
Yeah, put a skid plate there.
Smart,
you know. But actually, like afterwards, we got like, I mean, we tested that car really hard. And I mean, like,
How much fun
we
is
weren't.
that?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's you can't beat that.
Vehicle
Seriously.
number one. You know,
Yeah.
we're going to go see if we can go break this thing. Like, only one in existence.
Because otherwise, I'm sorry.
Oops. Yeah, sorry.
You don't have a car.
Yeah, sorry. We don't have any cars to take to SEMA, so
How quick can we get number two?
Yeah.
Because number one's no longer an option.
you should probably send 3, 4, and 5 as well, just in case.
So we, but it actually like the bumper was the only thing
That's
that
amazing.
failed on
That's
it.
impressive.
So, yeah, we were like, wow, this car actually does like really well.
Well, it's
Yeah.
kind of a lower car. It's got a
It
lower
is.
stance, right? It's somewhat long. It's probably not the best for rock crawling or
Right.
whoops.
So what you guys end up doing to them? Did you put different suspension and stuff on them?
So we did, and it's funny because they're like, okay, we have to lift them and put suspension on there, and I go,
How?
so this is like car suspension, and I do truck.
Yeah, this is so
and they're
different.
they're like, okay, well, that's fine. Just you can do whatever you want. And I'm like, no, I don't know the suspension.
No, that's right. Yeah, what do you?
And they're like, what do you mean you don't know this? I'm like, no, I mean, I don't know this because like we built a Volkswagen Atlas like the year before for Tanner.
Yeah.
And same thing. He was like, I want it lifted and I want the suspension to be usable. And I'm like, but it's all car suspension.
Yeah.
And like,
So is it not A-arms? How did all that work?
so it's like I don't know how to explain.
Kind of an A-arm?
It's I mean, it has like an A arm,
Yeah.
but I joke. It's like almost like a J arm, like a, you know,
Oh,
like
okay. That makes sense though. No, I get it.
I was like, it looks like a banshee arm. No. So the way like everything moves, it's just completely different because like how we have like our external bypasses and things like that. Everything is internal on those struts. So it sits differently. So like the only way for us to really like get height out of it is technically to take where the mount on the shock is and move it up so that the coil pocket sits higher, right? But that doesn't increase any travel. In fact, it takes it away
Or you got a
because
drop
the
down
drop down,
bracket, right?
Yeah.
Which essentially doesn't do anything except raise a vehicle.
right? And it's like either trying to, and so it's everything's just a little bit different because it was almost like it was opposite than what we do for like truck stuff.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, I don't know. So we went to some friends that are really into, like I went to Feel Suspension,
Yeah.
and talked to them, and like I was like, what can you do, you know?
Right.
And so he ended up being like giving me new shocks. But then when we did the Kias, we went to another company that specializes in all the
Nice.
road racing and stuff like that.
Sweet.
So they built the suspension, but it was $30,000 for us to get the suspension built, and they had to send it they had to send it to Germany.
Oh my God.
Have all new shocks and everything rebuilt for it, and then
How long ago was this?
that was in 2019.
Wow, because like
Yeah.
nowadays, like with rally and everything kind of taking off and the Subarus, it's crazy kind of what they've been able to do with that car suspension, how they get it to work. Like,
Yeah, and that's exactly we went after. We went to a company that they specialize in all the Subarus.
Smart
and
though, yeah.
Like those rally cars, because we're like, well, they know how to set it up. I don't.
Yeah. It's so different.
Yeah, and it was that SEMA was a lot because they are out in like Gardenia area, and we're in San Dimas, and we're trying to build everything at ours, but then they had to do all the suspension out there, and we were literally, I was leaving our shop probably at like 10 o'clock at night with the truck and trailer, driving out there,
Oh my God.
switching vehicles out, and then getting back to our shop by like 1 or 2 in the morning, and then rolling that one out, and then our guys are starting at that. So it's like we were running 24 and 48-hour shifts.
That's insane.
Like, because we didn't I think we got the suspension 7 days before SEMA.
Oh my God.
and meanwhile, you're also trying to run a business at the same time too.
Yeah.
And doing your normal clientele.
Yeah, right. That. And it's funny because we have like, I don't know, it bugs me, but we have like 2 bad reviews on like our Google, and one of them is like, during SEMA, like, they couldn't take my car in because SEMA was more important than us. And I was like,
You're like, technically, yes.
like, but at the same time, I'm like, it is. And it's not that it's SEMA, like, those are still our customers. We're getting paid to do this.
Yeah.
It's not that, we're just out
Sorry,
there playing. Like, this is our business,
It's our
and
business,
we do
exactly.
it. Yeah. So,
I mean, they were booked before, and that's the way it works.
and but it is like with working with OEs, it's awesome to work with them, and then also too, it's like we get but everything is in a crunch. It's nothing is ever
it's now.
how long is it going to take? Like, okay, 6 months, great. We'll see you in 6 months. Like,
Yep.
we had another car that was sitting at our shop for 6 months that we were not allowed to touch. Because we didn't have any okays on it yet.
Did you charge for storage?
Yeah, we used to. Well, so we used to basically
to.
be almost like SEMA Garage before SEMA Garage was there.
Yeah.
So
Oh, wow.
we at a couple of our, I don't know, the buildings on the side.
Yeah.
They literally just had vehicles that weren't even out yet for
Just
like
storing there.
just storing them there. And if like Ford would be like, okay, like you can't let anybody else in that building to see it, only people that we authorize, and we would
Yeah.
have to take like their cell phones and like everything. So
That's
when they would
crazy.
go in there, they could see it, but they couldn't take pictures. They couldn't
Yeah.
do anything.
It's kind
They
of cool.
could
though, huh?
measure.
You're like,
That was cool that you guys were like really, really heavy into it, which is pretty awesome.
what it feels cool too. You're like, hey, this shit's
It does feel
so
top secret.
Yeah.
Put your shit over there.
Do you want to see what the new F-150 with all aluminum looks
That's
like?
so
It's
sick.
sitting in there.
Yep.
Like,
We have it. Sorry, you can't go, but
you
it's
can't
there.
go, but it's in there.
It's also scary though too, because I mean that's a lot of responsibility on you guys.
It is. Yeah.
A lot of vehicles are like that too. I mean, people are super secretive. You got like there's NDAs with everything.
Yeah.
big. Well,
Lots
you're-
of
When the new
NDAs.
Mustang came out, I think we had like VIN number 1 that we were working with, and people are like,
It's a big
I
deal.
mean,
Yeah.
the benefit for the OEMs to get these cars out there is so we can create aftermarket parts. Right?
Yeah.
They want
Mm-hmm.
those aftermarket parts to be available when they launch the vehicle.
Of course.
To kind of
Yeah.
create the whole persona. Now, granted, most of them offer their own aftermarket parts.
of course, they
for
have their
They do now.
performance.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and beforehand they didn't, right? Like they didn't sell aftermarket parts, and then it was really hard because it was like once you modify it, the dealers wouldn't touch it. You would lose all your warranty.
course, yeah.
And it's like now, the OE saw like, oh, our customers want to customize their vehicles and make them, like you said, like to their own thing. So now everyone has their own line of products and brands that they offer and their partnerships and stuff like that, which I do that a lot with the OEs too. I do that with Ford and Kia, work with them with like what brand partners have good relationships. And we have to answer the question like, you know, how's their customer service? How is their product? Do you have returns? What do people say about it? Like, just anything and everything you can. And then that's how they decide if they're going to go with the brand partner too. And we've actually had Ford sit in our lobby one time for like, I think it was like a week. And the guy was just sitting in there. Like, I mean, he was working and doing his stuff, but it was literally just to listen to like what customers are saying when they walk in.
Oh my God.
That's find cool. out like, hey, like, what are they asking? What do these conversations look like? Does this make sense? Like, you know, and he was one of the designer and engineers there. So
that's cool that they go to the grassroots level like that to really try to get a good pulse on their customers.
Yeah.
And it kind of shows in their products. I mean, I've been a Chevy guy my whole life, right?
But Ford is.
They're not connected to the enthusiast. Ford is. Toyota is. Like, they've really put the effort into it. Yeah. I wish Chevy did more so, but.
You know, and I think Chevy could do a lot more, but, and it was funny because like we were talking about Chevy the other day because, my boyfriend just got a new Colorado and, you know, I was like, man, I'm like, they're actually like super nice vehicles, for what they are. And like the interior was like insane. I was like, this is pretty crazy for a Colorado.
Yeah. Like, is it a ZR2 or is it just a regular Colorado?
Yeah, ZR2.
I mean, technically they're like mini trucks, right?
Yeah. They are. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting just to see like the OEs going that way. Now, the great part for us is, I mean, I broke an axle on my Bronco and took it into the dealer and I was like, I broke an axle. And they're like, okay, it'll be a week.
That's nice though.
Yeah. And it's like, I have it lifted on 37s and beforehand you roll in on like one tire size bigger and it's like, oh, we can't warranty that. Like,
that's nice.
So, I mean.
Sorry, your windshield wipers went out, but you have larger tires on it.
You can't do anything about it. Can't do anything about it.
So, I mean, there's like the plus and minuses, right? Like, and I mean, with all the aftermarket parts too, we are getting those vehicles like the Raptors and the Broncos that are coming already, like from the factory with like set up.
Speaking of Bronco, you just built a Bronco last year, right? For what network was it for? Didn't you guys just build or weren't you?
For SBN?
SBN, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, about Bronco. We built a lot of Broncos.
Yeah, so you have
for SBN, yes.
So I'm the chair of SEMA Businesswomen's Network. And 10 years ago, we built a Mustang that was all female build. And there were, I think, 42 women that were participated on that build. Yeah. And when we say like participate, because there was so many like negative comments, oh, it took 42 women for what one guy could build, you know? And you're like, well, it's not that it's 42 women like bolting everything on, but it's like from the marketing, from the painting of the vehicle, coating the wheels, like all the different process. It's not just actually building the vehicle and bolting the stuff on. It wasn't like we clicked
the whole process. It's really...
Yeah, it wasn't like we went on a website and clicked on everything. Everything showed up and we bolted it
42
on.
42 people put it on.
Yeah, and had a 30-pack of beer and be like, that's a weekend project. Like
Mimosas?
Yeah. But it's from like all parts of it, like the team that decided what parts to go with, doing the research on, the whole process. Someone else that was just managing all the volunteers, people that were managing the parts, the media, so we broke it down into teams.
That's cool.
But now, are these all people in grade or in the industry, or were they new people being introduced to the industry too?
There were new people being in. So there's 2 points to that. First of all, so Kathy and I we're the chair and chair-elects. I'm the new chair now.
Yeah.
But when it was like, we didn't want it to say, hey, this is all going to fall on us because we're the leaders. It was like, no, this needs to be a group effort, and we need to make sure that it's not us just like dictating everything that's going on. So we decided to break up the build as to like teams. So it was like, okay, we have the volunteer team, the build team, the media team, so we sectioned it off into teams. And then on our select committee, we had girls that were in charge. And so we had 2 people in charge of each team. So there wasn't just one person in charge. And that way, because we know it's a volunteer position. So you can't make a meeting. At least there's someone else there that can help
That's
overlook
nice.
it, or they can make decisions together. And then they're the ones that are in charge of that group. So then when we reached out to, when we say members at large, but like when we reached out to everybody, because we opened it up to just any woman that was an enthusiast or in the industry. When they signed up, they got to choose what part of it they wanted to be on. And then
that's cool.
That way it went to this. So we had over 250 women that signed up to be a part of it.
Oh my gosh.
We had 157 women that actually ended up working on it, because if it didn't work out for people like time-wise after they signed up.
And it really took
halfway through.
157 people to do it? No, I'm just kidding.
157, yeah.
That's amazing. How long did it take you guys to do?
How complicated
what
is that?
What was the process? When did you guys get the vehicle, and then you guys debuted it at SEMA?
Yeah. So it's actually kind of a funny story. So 10 years ago, we did the Mustang, and that's actually how I got involved in like the council stuff. The SBN at that time was like, we want to do an all-female build, and Marla Moore was the chair, I think, at that time, or Rose Kawasaki.
Cool.
And they want to do an all-female build. So they reached out to Ford, and Ford said, we'll only give you the car if you have Teresa and Sarah's shop build it out there, or they have to be the ones that paint it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we... Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Right? Like, which I know it's great to get recommendations on.
Especially from Ford.
From Ford, yeah.
That's massive.
But for us, we were like, that's awesome. Like, first of all, like, we got to work on this, and we weren't really involved in, like, any of the stuff. I mean, we were building, like, SEMA Cares cars with Mike Spagnola at that time, and he owned Street Scene at the time.
Yep.
Now he's the CEO and president of SEMA.
Of SEMA.
But so it was like we were doing some stuff, but mostly when we were doing SEMA Care stuff, we were building those cars, and that was working with WD-40 on them.
Oh, that's cool.
And
I do remember all that.
yeah,
That's awesome.
it's a lot of stuff.
Well, and then too, like what people forget, like you're doing this for the women and getting them involved. Like you were, a powerhouse in a man's world at that time. Like there was nobody else doing what you guys were doing that was probably a woman at the time.
And SBN, we're actually celebrating our 30th anniversary right now of being around in the industry. But just to see like it grow, even in the last couple of years, I mean, we went from having like 200 and something members to having over 700 members in the last 2 years that, and it's like just seeing, and it's so different because I get asked all the time, like, that's like the number one, how did it feel growing up as a woman in the male dominated industry? And I was like, well, I didn't know I was a woman in the male dominated industry.
True. I was just,
you're like, I just knew I was dominating.
Yeah. I just came in and did my shit.
Yeah.
No. I thought, I mean, to be honest, I thought I was just young and I had to prove myself. But then once you start talking and you prove yourself, and I think I ignore a lot of the stuff. I mean, I still do it today. It's funny because like even today, people will walk in and ask questions, and it's like my boyfriend standing right there, and they'll keep talking to him. And I'm the one answering all the questions, and then they keep talking to him, and I just keep answering it. But I've always done that. I mean, that's like even at the sand show, but like, I mean, probably wrong mindset, but to me, I'm like, whatever, sale's a sale. Like,
sale's a sale. Who cares?
You can look at him all day. I don't care. I hire him to be here.
That's true.
Don't worry, I'll double check his work for you.
Like we're good. But I mean, it's just, I guess I never let it bother me, because
that's probably the best way to look at it, though, too, is just why let it bother you? Just do what you do.
So what does the SBN do? What is the purpose of SBN?
So
and then the vehicles you build, does it give back to women? Does it bring awareness?
So SBN is the SEMA Business Women's Network is a way it's in the end for SEMA, it's the way that we empower, engage, and educate women in our industry, right? So it's just a place for women to, like if they're looking for resources or other women in the industry or like, we get a lot like how to deal with males. So we have like a male ally program right now. That's a web series, and it's actually kind of cool because it's just like some other guys in the industry and with some of the women and everyone just kind of talking about different stuff,
That's awesome.
like working with it. And basically it's like we were getting a little bit of slack on that too. Is like, oh, like you better make sure it's worded right. And it's like, no, it's just having the conversation and like being able to say like, hey, we can have these conversations now. And talking because, and to be honest with you, when I found out, we first started talking about the Male Ally program, I started talking to other guys in the industry. And I think a lot of the women would think that the way they'd get treated in like a garage or working with them, like other men, like side by side, that was only happening to them because they were a woman, but guys got treated the same way. And I just think they didn't realize that like
they were being
guys talk
that way.
shit to each other, they always say like, and I would joke around with them saying like, if they're not talking shit to you, then you're not a threat to them.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
they
True.
think you're
That's
going to
fair.
leave, like,
Yeah.
but I'm like, if they're sitting there, like, I go, you just got to keep doing your work. Like, you just got to, and then you'll earn your place there. But I feel like that was kind of a conversation that I was like, I don't know. I've always been the boss. So
True.
it's a little different for me because even though we've always had I've had women employees, obviously, but I've always had a majority of male employees.
Yeah.
And I get it all the time. I walk in there and tell a guy like, hey, that's wrong. You need to move this over here and do this. And they have a hard time sometimes listening to it, but I always thought it was because I was younger at first as well.
Yeah.
And then realized like later on, I would get the same thing. Like guys would start hitting on me that were employees. And I was like, nope, like you need to stop.
You're like, thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah. I was like, you need to stop right now. Like you cannot do that. And and it's like,
That's so crazy.
but it's just different, and I thought, but for me, it's like, I don't know, I guess I just thought it was life and the thing as a business owner. I don't think it's different that like guys go through or.
Yeah.
I think, just coming from like, our business and stuff too and being in the industry, I feel like, a majority of the men were the kind of the front men of the industry, right? But the backbone of the industry were the strong women behind. Everyone kind of had that strong, woman behind them, whether it be the CFO or something handling the operations.
So true, though.
And the women have really been the backbone of our industry and really most industries.
Yeah.
Whenever
look at your mom. Your mom.
Yeah, my mom was a
helped get
badass.
them together, yeah.
And it really took both of them to make it work. It couldn't be one or the other.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like when people go like, oh, it's so cool that you work on cars. My mom worked at the company with my dad every single day. She actually, when they started the company, she was, and I don't even want to say a stay-at-home mom, but she was at home.
Yeah.
And she had a packaging service company. And then my dad was painting cars.
Wow.
And when he was painting cars, and he was working at a dealership at the time, but she would sand and prep all the cars so that when he got home from work,
No way.
he could spray them, and then she would color sand and buff them, and then they would put the cars back together. But
so
my mom didn't
badass.
do that because she loved working on cars. My mom did that because she knew they needed to pay a
How to
mortgage.
get done? Yeah. To
Right?
get money
They
on
had
it,
to
right?
get done. Yeah. And so growing up, it was like we always saw my mom inside the shop working on cars just as much as my dad.
It's normal.
But then she would be inside running the office and doing payroll and picking us up from school and
dealing with the
dealing
kids.
with everything. And it's like we grew up like, we get to work at 7:00 in the morning, 6:30. My mom would take us to school, whatever time, 8:30 or whatever that was.
Yeah.
And then pick us up, or like sometimes my grandparents would pick us up, or one of the employees would pick us up. We didn't know.
Yeah. Just
Someone
wherever
would
you
show-
go.
someone
Either
would
way,
show
you're getting
up.
up to school.
Yeah. And it's like, and then we were at work until 9:00 at night, like always alongside my parents because they
Yeah, but
both
that's fun,
worked
right?
there.
I mean,
I was saying.
I go to my dad's shop too and go hang out after school and go run amok or whatever it was.
Yeah. And I was always like, no one ever, like my parents never told me, oh, you're working on a car. That's something that guys do. It was just, if you want something done, then you do it.
Yeah.
Like it didn't matter. Right. But it's like, in how the SBN started too, it was actually the like wives of the guys that were at SEMA. So when the guys were all at meetings and doing stuff, they would go have like their own like
let's go
meetings.
have a networking cocktail party
Yeah.
together.
But then they started realizing a lot of the women were actually in the industry and, or would be coming into the industry and things like that. So that's how SBN started. And so we still do like a ton of education, networking events and things like that.
That's cool.
The build was, we don't do builds. We just did the one 10 years ago and this one. And it's all it is a tool. It's a tool to show for women to come together, to work on a vehicle together, to meet other women in the industry.
Yeah.
Girls to help show and educate other women like what they do. So it's like a Goose Gear, their daughter came out and she installed the whole Goose Gear system and got to show everyone else. And she's 18 years old, 19 years old, and she's out there and
badass.
And it was so cool because like everyone's working together on everything. And that's exactly what it's for. Plus we have a whole bunch of women companies on the vehicle. And I don't think how many people understand how many women owned companies there are in our industry.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, a lot of people go like, oh, why don't you guys ever show like that you're a women owned company? And I'm like, cause I sell truck parts. I just sell truck parts. I don't need to be advertising I'm a woman owned company.
Yeah.
I tell that to other women in the industry because
of course.
I think it's important for them to know like everything is achievable.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't matter. But like, but yeah, so we have a lot of, so like we say, we have women owned companies on that build as well. So those are considered to be. So like,
I'll tell you what, some of the biggest companies in our industry are all women owned. Like look at Magnuson and look at Hellwig. I mean, it's amazing, powerful women that have built these companies, and it's so cool to see.
Yeah. It is.
It's so dang cool to see.
It's really badass.
Yeah.
I mean, they're usually smarter and more organized than us too.
Honestly, heck, that's for darn sure, man. Yes, they are. Us men are unorganized.
Fast forwarding, you've made some adjustments. The store, your shop isn't there anymore. You kind of moved it to an online platform. What are you doing today?
So, we're an online platform now for selling parts. We're still building vehicles, but now we're building, most of the vehicles that we're building now, we get to pick and choose what comes to us, or we're building like 5 at a time versus
that's nice though.
Yeah. Cause we used to have 80 vehicles in our shop at a time. So it's like
80 vehicles.
Yeah. And it's like, that's a lot.
It's customer service nightmare, I'm sure. Like,
that's a lot.
Everybody's like, yeah, I don't need it anytime soon. And then they need it that week. Well, sure would be cool if I could get it this week.
Well, I actually have this one thing I want to go to the next week. It'd be really cool.
Yeah, it is. It's like scheduling. It's like vehicles were not allowed to come in unless all the parts were there physically. And then everything would get scheduled. And I mean, and we were very blessed at our shop before. It's like, we were always a 4 to 6 week out. So people would be like, oh, these parts are in stock. I'm like, yes,
but we don't have manpower to.
Yeah. But our schedule is 6 weeks out. Yeah. So, even during like 2008, I think we got down to like 2 weeks out.
Wow.
But we still had.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we still had vehicles lined up, and
2008 was like a massive recession. Like shit sucked then.
Yeah.
And like the one thing my dad really instilled in us, and actually my mom was probably the bigger one on it, was that we never financed anything. It was like when you ordered parts and we ordered pallets of parts, we paid for them.
Cash for them.
Mm-hmm. And that way, if it's like once we had it, we owned it. We didn't owe anyone any money. We didn't have to go through anything. So it was like when 2008 recession hit, we had already had all the parts in stock. We had over 150,000 in stock that we owned.
Wow.
And didn't have to pay anyone. And so it's like if we needed to adjust our pricing, we could.
You could.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Genius.
It was. It's like, and I'm very happy that was one thing that my mom was like, there's things that you finance because it's smarter to finance them business wise, but everything else you pay for. Like
Smart though.
Now, I mean, we were at the sanctuary, we were talking. You were kind of doing some promoting and stuff now too, right?
Yeah. So I know you're like, you do all this stuff. I'm all, see, yeah.
Because you were at the, what was the Coastal Country Jam doing something down there?
Yeah. So Coastal Country Jam. So Ken Johnson asked me to help him with some stuff. We've been like on the off-road side of things, and he was like, hey, we want to bring some vehicles in. And I said, okay, what do we want it to look like? So we actually were able to sell some booth spaces for vendors in our industry there. And then we brought in 40 vehicles to display. So one day we did like all the hot rods, and the next day we did all like off-road and overlanding and stuff. And it was actually like really well received. I mean, we roped everything off because, I mean, you got a lot.
You just never
get a
know.
lot of drunk people.
Yeah,
there.
you
It's
do.
like-
Yeah, it's a mess.
Man, isn't that why you go to country concerts?
Yeah.
That's it right there.
But it was so much fun. Just being at that venue and being in that crowd. And I mean, so many people were coming by and asking about the vehicles.
Sure, they
and
loved it.
Yeah. So we, Coastal Country Jam loved it. So they asked us to come on and start helping
sweet.
with that kind of stuff. And so we're like, yeah, we'll
Let's do
definitely
it.
be doing that. Yeah.
Free concert.
Yeah, do I just get free tickets? Cool.
Exactly.
Right?
We're in.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was still a lot of work, but
It always is.
but it's fun, to get into a front of a different audience, you know, new people,
Yep.
and, just really connecting with people on a different level. Cause I mean, there's so many people that were like, wait, what, you can do this? And it's like, yeah. And I think that's one of the things that probably inspires me the most about working in the industry is like when new people come into it and they get like so excited about the possibilities of what they can do.
Oh, yeah.
And being able to guide them into those possibilities, or to be like, yeah, we can go do this. And, you know, it's like, I started getting involved with a lot of like, all women, like off-road groups and stuff
That's
too.
cool.
And like, now I can't do it, but at our old shop, we used to do the suspension 101 classes where they would come in and I'd make them practice, you know, working on their
Nice.
vehicle before we go out on the trails. And we would do some all lady runs, and then we do other runs with like everybody. But those runs were getting a little like, we showed up one time and I maxed it out at 25, and we showed up and there was like 40 something people in the
my
parking lot. And I'm
gosh.
like, dude, we were maxed out at 25. Like, and they're like, yeah, but I brought my friend and this person and that, you know, and I'm
Yeah.
just like,
Can't do it.
and it's hard because it's like once you start getting on a trail and it's that long, and I'm like, you
it's
guys
never going to end.
yeah, first of all, the radio doesn't even reach that that far
yeah.
back. You know,
miserable.
something happens, and it was just kind of like
Always.
so I didn't like stop them. I just am more of a select group where I don't
Yeah.
really like
Do smaller.
advertise it as
Yeah.
much because I was like,
I kind of want to have fun still. And
Yeah.
not babysit everyone.
Gets too big.
yeah, because we were like, by the time we were, I mean, they started evolving. We were having like one guy in the middle that just had all tool bags and recovery stuff. And then they got another guy in the back with it too,
Jeez.
because they'd have to stop and help everyone on their vehicle. And I'm like, no, dude, like these people need to learn how to
Do it themselves. Yeah.
You're like, otherwise, we're just going to go drive around the lake bed in circles.
Right.
Like,
Totally. But like, you know what I'm saying is like you said, like the liability, it's like you start going out there on those runs, and then our team's the one that's, you know,
You're doing
helping
everything.
them recover and do
Yeah.
stuff. It's like you have to start thinking about that kind of stuff. You know, and I'm calling, and some people don't like, you know, I'm calling for a service tree, letting them know beforehand, like,
Yeah.
this is what we're doing, this is how it is, like, you know, and I make sure we do all of that with BLM for service tree. And when we tell them there's only gonna be X amount of people there, and then they see us drive by and we have,
And then you're
Double or
lying to them
triple that.
technically. Like,
yeah,
yeah, it sucks.
they're like, liar.
my
Yeah.
permit only has 25
Right?
people.
Yeah. Not
You guys pick and
45.
choose. No.
Those people just kind of joined in.
Yeah.
But no, so I mean, there's so many different stuff, but yeah, so SBN I do. I'm also chair of SEMA Cares, which is the charity side of SEMA. And But yeah, and trying to think, I was like, I do.
What else do I do?
Well, apparently what she does recently is she rides her Harley down the dirt road to Johnson Valley and then lays it down on its side.
Ow.
But the key takeaway is she's riding a Harley down the dirt road.
That's badass.
Wash Road to Johnson Valley. Eventually it's going to go down on its
just
side.
the road. That's not,
That's your road to your driveway?
yeah, that's
Yeah.
the road to the driveway to the house.
Yep.
But it's so funny because when we were going to Sturgis a couple of years ago, we were going through Zion and we decided we were going to go take a different road because the other one had like all this traffic. We're like, oh, we'll take this road up here. And so it was me, my sister, and Dana. And we're like, we're all on Harleys, obviously. And we're on this road and it like turns into dirt. And then I'm like, how much further is this on dirt? And they're like, I don't know. So like some guy like drives by in his car. We're like, is it a lot? Like, is it really far that way on dirt? And they're like, no, it's not that much further. Like you're literally almost there. And we're like, oh, okay. Well, it's 40 miles.
40 more miles?
40 miles on dirt.
Oh my God. That's awesome.
And it was so funny because it was like, what the very last part was like, you had to go down this hill and then it was like a bank and then it like went down and we're all like, huh. And there was another
you're at
section.
the very end of it.
Yeah. And then there was another section we had to like go up and stuff. And,
well, and you're on Harleys that are loaded.
Yeah.
With all your gear, bags, everything.
Oh
It's not
my
like
God.
it's a light
Right?
little,
Yeah. Light
Sportster or
load.
something. Like you got a week's worth of crap
Insane.
on the
right?
bike too.
Yeah. I have a Dyna lowrider, right? So it's not like it's
Epic.
like,
That's epic.
And but we went through it and stuff, and I told my dad, I was like, man, I'm so glad that I know how to ride dirt bikes because like literally
You gotta
like going
know.
through that you had to know
You're
like,
like,
okay, like
fish
just stay
chilling,
on
just
it,
going. Yeah,
like,
keep going.
keep going.
Just let it go. Just let the motion go.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
so whatever. You're supposed to
That's
ride all
rad.
motorcycles in dirt, right?
That's
Yeah,
bad. Exactly.
100%. Everything goes in dirt.
Everything goes in dirt, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's a Telluride or it's a motorcycle or it's whatever.
Let's see what this can do in dirt.
Exactly. 100 miles an hour on the tri-league bed.
Isn't that what rental cars are for, right?
Right?
Right? Yep. Exactly.
Dirt. Well, that's awesome. So what's new and exciting that's upcoming that you're looking forward to? Are you excited for SEMA?
I am excited for SEMA.
Got some vehicles?
You excited for
Actually,
SEMA Fest?
I'm not. I'm not supposed to say that.
Yeah, we're so excited.
So excited, yeah. I think it's going to be interesting to see what SEMA Fest does this year, and
Yeah.
if it turns out like what they were expecting. I'm definitely curious.
I hope it does well for them.
Yeah, I do too. And I mean, I think one of the things that it's kind of hard to explain, but I think we should have done better as SEMA Association is SEMA Fest is literally there because I don't know if like how much money our association puts into lawyer fees to help keep all of our government stuff, like our trails open, our racetracks
Yeah, a lot.
open, and like everything. And so how much money we put into that in government affairs is like absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's costing SEMA a ton of money. So SEMA Fest is literally a way for them to generate money to help pay
That's good.
for those government affairs. And I
Yeah.
think that if like our industry probably knew that a little bit more,
I wish I would have pushed that 'cause I had no idea.
because then we would probably
I had
push it
no
a little
idea.
bit more. But that's strictly what the SEMA Fest is too.
I mean, because honestly, I thought it was just a poor attempt at making it something available to the public while not trying. It was a poor attempt to not ruffle the feathers of the current industry and some of the old brands that have been at SEMA while trying to introduce, it to the public. Like
Yeah.
really, I mean, my opinion is, we've both been doing SEMA for much longer than probably anyone thinks, right?
Right.
and we've seen all the stages and everything. And as much as I wish SEMA could be maybe what it was 15 years ago, it never will be, and it needs to adapt, and I think it needs to be open to the public. I think that SEMA Fest, that concert in the middle of the week or the weekend, where it shifts from a Thursday to Sunday type of show, and instead of trying to generate the revenue off of the booth space, the tickets sales coming in, and it'd be that one time a year where the public can speak directly to the brands, maybe buy direct, buy their apparel, everything, and really position it, and then have a small trade show somewhere else. But there's no need for the trade shows anymore when it comes from B2B.
Yeah.
It's already handled beforehand. I don't know what your
It's-
thoughts are, and if you can't speak on much of that, but
It's hard, I think. Well, I mean, and that's one of the things that like I volunteer a lot for too. A lot of people go, is it really worth volunteering at SEMA? And to be honest, I've been volunteering now for 12 years. It's made a huge difference for me in my business life because I get to learn about so much stuff that is actually going on, like networking, besides just networking, us knowing like they have so many trends, things that they're looking into for actual SEMA association. I get to hear all of that stuff where like as a small business owner, I would never have been like, wait, what's going on? Like, how is this going to affect? And like, I have to admit, I'm not a person that really watches like news and is like into it.
same.
Because I don't ever run my company based off of what's happening in the world. I run my company based off, I'm aware of what's happening, but I'm not the type of person where I'm like, oh my gosh, they said there's going to be a recession.
No,
pull back, fire everybody. It's like, I'm like, I just don't, for
the
me,
big
then
conglomerates do it, but we as medium business or small business, we can't do it like that.
we can't. And for me, I'm more the opposite. Like, okay,
Let's try
what
harder.
am I going to do to try harder?
course.
What am I going to bring in to like make sure that and it's funny because that's one of the questions I do ask, like when we do walk in, to SEMA as volunteers, it's like, oh, hey, like X, Y, and Z is happening. I'm like, then what are we doing to make sure that we're growing the association?
How do we come out of it stronger?
Yeah.
Because kind of what you said, it's like, I don't want to say the trade show is gone, but at the same time, I'm like, how many people go to purchase now? To be honest with you. And I probably shouldn't be saying that, but I don't. I go there for networking, to meet with people, to go to the education classes. Like,
Exactly.
it's like, for me, that's almost more important, but it's like, it's the one time when everyone is brought together that I don't see a lot of these people because they're in other states or they don't do the stuff that I do. So, I barely get to see them. And it's the only time I get to see them. I hardly walk around anymore. Beforehand, it was like you made appointments, you walked in, you knew that you were spending, I'm going to make a $10,000 PO, and you sat down and you had meetings to actually purchase and learn about their new product. But because like you said, social media is out now, all these other things are out. I can just call you
Nothing's a secret
and
anymore.
be like, hey, I need this. Do I need to see your new product? Yeah. It's nice. It's nice to see it if I can't go and physically see it all the time.
Yeah.
But
either way, you can see the videos on social media. You can see all
before
that.
the only way to share your photography was on a floppy disk or a CD or the mini
Different
DVDs.
times.
Like, you had to go there to get that information, right?
Right. So I do. For me, it's like, no, I don't go there to purchase anymore. There might be a few that I'm like, well, I'm going to run really quick through these aisles to see if there's something new that I didn't know about or a company or a brand I didn't know
Go to the
about.
new product section, see some new stuff if it stands out.
But I'm a new product judge, so I see it all
You
before.
know, yeah.
I see it all before.
Yep, exactly.
And it's funny because 3 years ago, whatever it was, I was like, can you send us this information prior? Because before we could only see what was there.
Yeah.
And us trying to walk around and see everything, I was like, I need to narrow it down so that by the time we get there, we only have the top 5.
Yeah.
And then I want to touch and feel it. And I think I broke the rules one year too, because we took our new product badge judging things off and we went and walked the floor. And I was like, so I'm sitting there pulling it apart, touching it, and I'm like, what does it do? What is this? And I'm like, I have a retail store, and they're, and everyone that's a judge is a retailer.
Yeah, nice.
And, so we all looked at it and they went through it with us. And so we saw because otherwise it's just a product that's sitting there
and you don't know,
and you have a tag that's this big that says, this is a new product that does X, Y, and Z. And it's like, cool. Well, what does that product do any different than the other 10 people that have roof racks or the other 10 people that have, exhaust systems? You're like, it doesn't look much different. And so understanding
most products don't look much different.
Yeah. So understanding what the technology is behind it that took away something and whatever. So, I don't know. So I kind of agree with you on the SEMA
Well, as
Fest
far as
thing.
SEMA goes, I think we have the right person in there. I think if anyone understands it from our point of view,
Yes.
what it was and what it could be or what it should be, it's Mike. And I think we kind of have to trust his, his decisions that he's made with SEMA Fest and everything being made, because I think if anyone in the past 20 years, he's probably the one that really does understand it the most and understands our positions and where we're at and maybe what it could be or should be.
Yeah.
So hopefully moving forward.
It's exciting, man. It's exciting to see what happens next. And
Yeah, definitely. I think that, and I think like us making sure, and I think a lot of people don't know this, but your board members are the ones that make the most decisions.
yeah.
And a lot of people don't vote for their board members of who wants to be in there, but they're the ones that make the most decisions in our industry. So board makes decisions and SEMA staff has to
Abide by
them, right?
Yeah.
So that's who makes your
Smart.
decisions on.
I never recognize any of the names on most of the people on the board member.
You should see some of the names that come in for people that run for board. I'm like, I have never
Who
heard
are
of this
you?
person before.
Yeah.
Like, and you're like going through the process. I mean, we have a lot of people that actually run for board, and then we go through and break it down. There's a committee for it that I'm on that committee as well. And we break that down into being like your top 2.
Wow.
So it's a whole entire process. It's not like,
Insane.
That's
so wild.
Well, we should probably wrap this up soon. We've been here for a long time. I'm sure we
Sorry.
want to take too much. No, please.
No, this
it's
is
been
amazing.
awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like we could continue on and
I
keep
know.
going. If people want to find out more about CTS, where do they go find you?
Yeah, so we are, our website is LGE-CTS.com. And then we're on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn under LGE-CTS Motorsports.
And how can people be a part of the SBN network that maybe aren't with the industry or kind of interested in it? How do they join?
So SEMA also has individual membership. So if you're not in the industry, it's like $40 to be an individual member.
Nice.
Which that also helps pay for our for us when we're fighting for things, because we need people to help sign for the petitions and stuff too. But they can go to SEMA.org, and then under that it has it'll say all your councils and networks, and then they have a whole bunch of different ones. So there's SBN is one of them, and then there's like FLN, which is for people under 40, and then there's Merging Tons of Technology. So there's a whole bunch of different ones that you can get involved in. But yeah, so SBN is just the women's side.
And then before we let you go, is there anything you can tell us that's maybe coming out at SEMA that, give us some insider information on?
I'll take it as a yes.
You can pretty much just say, "Shut up, Sean. You're going to see it."
When does this come out?
Too soon. Before SEMA. Well, it's like everyone's have to go to SEMA and find out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Exciting.
Yeah, we'll be auctioning the Bronco at SEMA.
Sweet.
So that's going to be on eBay Motors.
Rad.
And then the proceeds from that are going to go to SEMA Cares.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Rad.
Good.
Well, thank
here
you
to
so
guys.
much.
Yeah,
Yes, thank you so
great.
much for joining us. It's been amazing. You guys, go check them out. CTS. She dropped the Instagram and Facebook and website, so go order some parts. But we appreciate you guys tuning in and listening. Again, we did start an Instagram page for Lambo and Leroy. It's just at Lambo and Leroy. So we're posting a bunch of cool reels on there and getting that going. So we've always posted on our personals, but now we finally got that going and we got a website.
Idea.
It was Sean. Sean comes up with good ideas. He's like, "Hey, I got this great idea. Do it." So, so I'm doing it. But yeah, man, just adding to my list of Instagrams.
Right.
I gotta run. Thanks, you guys. Appreciate it. See you at the next one. Perfect. Oh yeah, I didn't slate the part in. Oh, and we did. Yeah, got it. Cool. Sweet.
Whoa! Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic gotta say. I got 'em picking up the pieces.